You ever meet someone who walks into your life like they've been there all along? That's what it felt like when I met Emily. I was 29, a software designer in Seattle, one of those overworked types who never really stopped to look around. Rainy mornings, long nights. Life was fine. Not bad. But not alive either. You know? Then came Emily. I met her on a Thursday. I remember because it rained that day. Real hard, too, typical Seattle. I ducked into a bookstore to wait it out, flipping through old poetry I'd never read before, when I heard a laugh behind me. Not just any laugh, it was full. Bright. It had this musical quality that made you want to laugh too, even if you didn't hear the joke. I turned, and there she was, wearing this yellow coat that looked like it belonged in sunshine, not rain. Curly auburn hair pulled into a messy bun, a coffee in one hand and a novel in the other. She caught me staring and smiled like she already knew me. "Need help picking something less tragic," she said. That was our first sentence. And I guess it never really stopped. We talked for hours that day. Coffee turned into dinner, dinner turned into walking the wet streets under one umbrella. Everything felt like a movie, except I wasn't watching it. I was in it. Emily was different. She was warmth in a cold city. She taught art therapy to kids and volunteered on weekends. She had this way of seeing people, their emotions, their pain, even when they tried to hide it. And she saw me. Really saw me. It scared me, honestly. Because I'd built walls, and she walked right through them like they were never there to begin with. We spent the summer together. Mornings were slow, full of coffee and jazz records. Afternoons were chaotic. She'd drag me into art museums, dance in grocery store aisles, force me to try new things. Nights were quiet and full of conversation about our pasts, our fears, our dreams. And God, I loved her. It was like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally remembered how to breathe again. One night in late July, we sat on the roof of my apartment, watching the city lights flicker like stars beneath us. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "Do you think people are meant to find each other? Or do we just get lucky?" I didn't know how to answer. So I said, "If this is luck, I never want to be safe again." She looked up at me with those impossible green eyes, kissed me soft and slow, and whispered, "Then don't be." Our world became small, but in a beautiful way. A world where every laugh, every touch, every quiet look meant something. Her presence made everything feel brighter. The sound of her keys in my door, the way she hummed while brushing her teeth, even the half-asleep mumbling when she curled into me at 2 a.m. It all felt like home. I'd fallen in love before. At least I thought I had. But Emily was different. She wasn't a chapter. She was the whole story. And back then, I believed it would never end. The first time I noticed something was wrong, it was so small I almost missed it. We were in the middle of baking cookies. Emily had flour on her nose, laughing as she messed up the dough on purpose, just to make me roll my eyes. It was silly. It was her. And then, suddenly, she went quiet. Her hands froze mid-air. "Em?" I asked, watching her stare past me like I wasn't even there. She blinked once, twice, like trying to remember where she was. Then, with a shaky smile, she said, "Sorry. I got dizzy for a second. I'm okay." But she wasn't. Over the next few weeks, the moments got longer. She'd space out in the middle of conversations. Her hands trembled when she thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes she'd repeat the same question twice, or forget things, small things, like where she left her phone, or what day it was. At first, I told myself it was stress. Work. Maybe she wasn't sleeping well. People forget things. We all get tired. But deep down, I was lying to myself. Because Emily was slipping. Quietly. Slowly. And I couldn't stop it. We sat in the doctor's office on a gray Thursday morning. I remember how cold it felt, even with the heater on. Emily squeezed my hand, but hers felt too light, like her fingers barely held strength. The doctor's voice was calm, too calm. Words like neurological tests, progressive symptoms, and possible early onset floated in the air like fog. My ears buzzed. My heart pounded in my throat. I didn't know what to say. Emily just nodded. She didn't cry. Not then. Not in front of them. But later that night, as we lay in bed, she turned to me and whispered, "What if I forget us?" I couldn't answer. I just pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "You won't," I said. "I'll remember enough for both of us." But time is cruel. Her good days became rare. Sometimes I'd wake up and find her standing in the kitchen, staring at the toaster like she didn't know what it was. Other times, she'd call me by the wrong name, only to burst into tears when she realized what she'd done. We tried treatments, therapies, hope. But whatever was happening to her, it didn't stop. And no one could give us a name, a reason. Just a possibility. Always a possibility. The world we had built began to crack. One evening, we stood in the middle of a grocery store. I had stepped away for 2 minutes. When I came back, she was gone. I found her in aisle 4, panicked, crying, clutching a jar of peanut butter like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. "I didn't know where I was," she sobbed into my chest. Neither did I anymore. The turning point came in autumn. She had a seizure. It was sudden, violent, terrifying. I held her on the floor of our living room, screaming her name, waiting for the ambulance, feeling her body jerk and twitch in my arms. When the medics finally arrived, I was drenched in tears and sweat, whispering over and over, "Please don't take her from me. Please don't take her." That night, I sat alone in the hospital hallway, hands shaking, heartbreaking. And that was when I realized. She was leaving me. Not all at once, but piece by piece. And I was powerless to stop it. But I wasn't ready to let her go. Not yet. Not without a fight. After the hospital, everything changed. I don't remember the days the way I used to. They bled together, gray mornings, silent nights, time passing in strange loops. Our apartment, once filled with her humming and color, felt like a waiting room. Sterile. Cold. A place between worlds. And me? I became a ghost in my own life. I stopped going to work. I let emails pile up until they disappeared under layers of new ones. My friends called, texted, left voicemails. I ignored them. I couldn't talk about it. About her. Because Emily was still there, but she wasn't. Some mornings, she'd wake up smiling like before, call me babe, kiss me like it was still summer. And for those precious moments, I'd believe it had all been a bad dream. But by noon, she'd forget what year it was. By afternoon, she'd forget my name. One day, I found her in the shower, fully clothed, crying softly as the water ran over her head. "I can't find me," she whispered. And that broke me. That night, I stared at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the man looking back. Hollow eyes. Overgrown beard. My face sagged with exhaustion, like grief had pulled gravity down harder on just me. I was fading too. I wanted to scream. Or run. Or disappear. But how could I leave her? So I stayed. Every day. Every moment. I became her shadow, always close, never fully seen. I started recording everything. Her voice, her laugh, the way she said shut up when I teased her. I filled notebooks with her memories, her favorite songs, the little things she'd forget, the taste of mango ice cream, the song she sang on long drives, the way she twirled her hair when she was nervous. I didn't know if I was saving her from forgetting or saving myself from losing her. At night, after she fell asleep, her hand curled weakly around mine, I'd sit on the floor and listen to old voicemails she'd left me. Ones that used to annoy me. Now, they were lifelines. Hey, dummy. Don't forget to buy milk. Also, I love you. Even when you forget the milk. Her voice was bright in those recordings. Whole. Unbroken. Unlike now. But somewhere in the pain, I found a new kind of strength. One morning, after weeks of silence, Emily looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're still here." And I nodded. Always. She smiled, not a full one, but enough. Then I'm not lost yet. Those 5 words hit me like a thunderclap. She was still fighting. Even if her mind betrayed her, her soul was still in there. Somewhere. And I realized I had to fight too. Not just to hold on, but to find out why this was happening. Because no one was giving us answers. Just pills. Just maybes. Just wait and see. But I wasn't waiting anymore. Not while she disappeared in front of me. Not while our love unraveled piece by piece. I didn't know where to start. But I knew I had to try. Because love wasn't just about holding someone when they're whole. It's about carrying them when they're broken. And I would carry her. Even if it destroyed me. It started with the pills. One morning, I was sorting Emily's medications, same as always, careful, robotic, when I noticed something strange. A bottle I'd never seen before. Pale green label. No name on the prescription, just a number. The dosage looked off. Way off. I stared at it for a long time. My gut twisted. Something wasn't right. Later that day, I called the pharmacy. They had no record of that bottle. None. The pharmacist sounded confused, even concerned. "It doesn't match anything in our system," she said. "Are you sure it came from us?" I was sure. And that's when the fire inside me lit. For months, I had let grief eat me alive. But now? Now I had something sharper than sorrow. I had suspicion. And for the first time in a long time, I had a direction. I began to dig. Late nights turned into research sessions. I read every paper, every medical article, every thread on obscure forums. The drug? It wasn't even fully approved. It was part of a clinical trial. A neurological inhibitor meant to suppress hyperactivity in the brain. Still experimental. Still unstable. And the more I dug, the worse it got. A name popped up again and again, Dr. Patrick Heller. Emily's neurologist. The man who had always smiled a little too calmly, who told us not to jump to conclusions, who reassured us she was getting the best treatment. But it was a lie. She wasn't a patient to him. She was a subject. I requested her medical files under power of attorney. The records were fragmented, intentionally vague, but tucked deep in a progress note. I found it. Subject has shown increased dissociation. Memory recall in decline. Drug appears to be accelerating neural regression. I sat in our kitchen, reading those words over and over until my hands went numb. He knew. He knew this drug was hurting her. And he kept giving it to her anyway. That night, I confronted him. I waited outside his clinic. It was raining again, like the universe was watching. When he finally walked out, umbrella tucked under his arm, I stepped into his path. He looked surprised. Annoyed. "Mr. Lane," he said. "I didn't expect." I held up the bottle. "You're drugging her. You're watching her fall apart and calling it data." He blinked. "You're upset. I understand. But these are early results. We're making progress. She's not your experiment." I didn't remember grabbing his collar, but I did. Pulled him close enough to see the coward in his eyes. "You lied to us. You broke her trust. You broke her. Security came. People shouted. I let him go before I lost control. But he knew I knew. And I wasn't done. The next day, I contacted a lawyer. Then the press. If the medical board wouldn't listen, I'd go public. I uploaded her case to every medical watchdog site I could find. I posted photos. Videos. The recordings I had made, Emily saying, I don't feel like me anymore. I didn't care about lawsuits. I wanted the truth exposed. And I wanted justice. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The trial was suspended. An investigation launched. Patients stepped forward. The world finally paid attention. But none of it could undo the damage done to her. By the time I stopped the drug, parts of Emily were already gone. Still, I held her every night. Still, I reminded her of who she was. I whispered our stories into her ear like lullabies. I told her about the bookstore. The yellow coat. The roof. And sometimes, on the rarest nights, she smiled like she remembered. I had fought for her. And I would keep fighting. Even if the justice came too late. People like to say that transformation is sudden, some lightning strike moment that cracks you open and reshapes who you are. But that's not how it happened for me. I didn't wake up one morning and decide to become someone else. I eroded into him. Bit by bit. Day by day. Choice by painful choice. After exposing Heller in the trial, after the headlines died down and the world moved on, I faced a truth I wasn't ready for. Justice doesn't heal people. It doesn't restore what's been taken. It only stops the bleeding. Emily was no longer the woman who danced in grocery store aisles or kissed me awake on Sunday mornings. She drifted in and out of clarity like a radio signal that never quite tuned in. Some days she knew me. Others she looked at me like I was a stranger who wandered into her memories uninvited. And God, every time she forgot me, something inside me cracked. But I didn't break. I changed. I sold my car. Quit my job completely. I converted our guest room into a therapy space. Books on cognitive decline, memory retention, art therapy, they covered every surface. I studied them like a man preparing for war. Her war. Every morning, I woke before she did. I'd sit on the floor next to the bed and watch her breathe, reminding myself that she was still here. Still worth every fight, every sleepless night, every sacrifice. When she woke confused, I didn't flinch anymore. When she cried because the world didn't make sense, I held her until her breathing slowed. When she forgot my name, I reminded her gently, like offering a gift. Evan, I'd say with a soft smile. I'm Evan. And you're safe. And slowly, I became someone I never imagined I could be. Not the old me. Not the ghost me. Someone new. Someone built for her. But the cost. The cost was real. I lost friends. They stopped calling when I stopped answering. My parents worried, begged me to move back home, to think of my own life. But Emily was my life. Even if she didn't always remember it. My reflection became unfamiliar. Not tired, hardened. Determined. A man whose purpose was carved into him like scripture. Some nights I sat alone in the bathroom, gripping the sink, whispering to myself. You can't fall apart. She needs you. Stay here. Stay present. It wasn't strength. It was survival. The biggest change came the night she painted for the first time in months. I set up a canvas, put brushes by her hand, hoping, just hoping, that muscle memory might reach somewhere her mind could not. She dipped a brush in yellow paint and dragged a trembling line across the canvas. It's the coat, she murmured. The one I wore, when. Her voice trailed off. But I knew. The yellow coat. The bookstore. our beginning. She remembered a fragment. A shard of our story breaking through the fog. And in that moment, watching her struggle to form a memory that once came so easily, I felt something inside me ignite, not anger, not grief. Purpose. A sharp, unshakable purpose. I wasn't just caring for her. I was carrying her. Carrying us. Carrying the version of her that the world had stolen. And I realized. Love had changed me into a man who could shoulder that weight. A man who did not exist before her illness. A man I never planned to become, but needed to be. I had become someone else. Not because she asked me to. But because loving her demanded nothing less. I lost her on a Tuesday. Not the way I feared, not in a hospital bed or under fluorescent lights, not with machines beeping or doctors whispering. I lost her quietly. At home. In the room filled with yellow light from the curtains she once picked out. Her breathing slowed sometime after breakfast. I held her hand, read aloud from her favorite book, The Little Prince, the same chapter we used to read on rainy days. Her fingers curled gently around mine. Then loosened. And just like that, she was gone. Gone, but not silent. Because the thing about true love is, it echoes. People think grief is loud. That it roars through your life like thunder. But it isn't. It's the silence in places that used to hold sound. It's her coffee cup still on the shelf. It's the half-squeezed toothpaste. It's the brush with a single hair caught in its bristles. It's hearing a song and forgetting to brace for the tears. After the funeral, I sat on our couch for hours, holding one of her sketchbooks. Her last painting, The Yellow Coat, was unfinished. Just a smear of color, a suggestion of something once vivid. And I wept. For everything we lost. And everything we still had. Because the truth is, love never leaves you whole. It carves itself into you. Beautiful and brutal all at once. Months passed. People told me I was strong. That she was lucky to have me. That I had done everything right. But I didn't feel strong. I felt hollow. And yet, in the hollowness, something began to bloom. I started writing. Pages and pages of memories. Not just mine, ours. I wrote about the bookstore, and the yellow coat, and the grocery store dance. I wrote down her laugh. I wrote the way she used to trace circles on my hand when she was thinking. I wrote down the look in her eyes the first time she said, "I love you." Not to hold on. But to let go, gently. Now, I teach part-time at an art therapy center. The same kind Emily worked at before her diagnosis. Every now and then, I see someone laugh the way she did. Or hum a song she used to sing off-key. And in those tiny flickers, she visits me again. Not as the woman she became in illness. But as the one she always was. Alive. Bold. Bright as sun on rainy pavement. People ask me if I regret it, staying, giving up my career, devoting my life to someone who was fading before my eyes. And I tell them the truth. No. Because loving Emily didn't ruin me. It revealed me. It stripped away everything that didn't matter and left behind something raw and real and irrevocably changed. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it nearly broke me. But it also gave me something most people never get. Real love. The kind that doesn't promise forever. The kind that walks with you through the fire. The kind that whispers, even in the pain. I was here. You were loved. And now I understand. Love and pain are not opposites. They are twins. And one cannot exist without the other. Loving her hurt. Losing her shattered me. But I wouldn't trade a second of it. Not one. Because if I had to walk through the fire again, just to hold her hand one more time, I would. Every time.